Well, I say it again. Good morning, everyone, and it is good morning. It's finally the sun's out. I'm going to start this morning with the department heads until the rest of the fire department come in. And I will start with Becky. You can't hear me?
Is it on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? All right, I'll turn it this way. All right, we'll start with you, Becky. Can oh, well, Laurie? Yes. All right, you're from Tim Cruz's office, so.
Sure.
Oh, well, where's? Oh, they're here.
They just came in.
You're usually sitting over there. Okay, Chris, what do you got? Anything that you want to say this morning?
Just cognizant of scams again. The grandparent scam, someone locally again fell for it. No matter how many times we talk about it, it keeps happening. I know you all come to the meetings, but just, share with your friends and your family members that, to beware of these calls.
Okay. Okay, Becky, we'll start with you, the sheriff.
So we have our
Okay.
spring fling at the farm on Saturday, May 6th. Okay, and that's usually a Mother's Day plant sale. There's a lot of interesting things that go on. We welcome everybody to come down for that. It's usually 10 to 1. And then in June, we have the farm luncheon, which everyone loves. That's going to be Friday, June 2nd this year. We're going to have a similar cookout like we had last year, with hot dogs, hamburgers, pork. So we'll be welcoming, everyone.
All of the triads.
All of the triads like we do here.
Okay, that's good.
Yep, so that's what's going on. Is there anything else?
Dottie?
Yeah, I have 3 trips on the Spirit of Boston. West, I collect reading the folders. West, we're reading at Easton, Somerville, the Western, and then in the fall, we're doing the turkey train. If you're interested, give me a call. The flyers are in the Council on Aging. I also put flyers at the library. And if you want interested, just give me a call. My number is 781-801-4822. I apologize, I forgot to bring the flyers in.
Okay. All right, I'm going to stop right now with the department heads because we have Sergeant Benner from the Halifax Police, and he's going to start with our meeting now, and I'll go back later, but the sergeant has extra duties to do too. So Sergeant, go ahead.
Okay. How's everyone doing today? So Ken asked us to come back here after the last meeting that we had with the Plymouth County Outreach to go over some stuff a little bit more in detail about what Narcan is, some of the issues that Halifax has here with the fentanyl crisis, and kind of a little bit of the history of where we're at today. So does everyone actually know what fentanyl is? When we're talking about that, when you hear it in the news or anything. So what it is it's an opiate that's 10 times, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's a lot more powerful than heroin. So a few years back, now I'm speaking for Halifax and how the Halifax Police Department saw it in kind of the history to where we got to today. So probably back around 2010 through 2015, we're really noticing uptake in drug overdoses having to do with pills, with Percocet pills. So what Percocet pills are, they're a prescription drug that's prescribed for pain. What happened was the younger generations were taking those drugs to get higher. So we saw, like I said, a big uptick with that. Then, all of a sudden, the pills kind of started to slow down, and everything sort of switched over to heroin, which heroin, everyone's heard of that. It's been around for a long time. And then it went over to the fentanyl. Fentanyl, like I said, very, very potent. People can also make a lot more money off of the fentanyl than they could off of heroin. So everyone knows that money really kind of makes everything turn. So what they found out was that about 2.5 pounds of heroin could roughly make about $80,000, but 2.5 pounds of fentanyl could make up to $1.2 million. So, small town. I got on in 2007, really didn't see too many drug overdoses. We'd see it kind of here and there. But then all of a sudden, just like a turn of a switch, next thing you know, Halifax, little sleepy town, we may be going to 2-3 overdoses in a week. It was absolutely just mind-blowing. When we first started off in the fire department, we'll get into it, they used to just have to intravenous drugs for to turn around the overdose. Then the nasal Narcan came out, which all the police departments around here began carrying around. Police departments were administering a lot of that Narcan just by the way of the call, because we're out and about, we'd probably be closer a lot of the time than the fire department would be. So it was a whole kind of training curve. DA's office was very good with it. They pushed a lot of training out to us. Plymouth County Outreach, who the ladies that spoke last week, that kind of developed from this whole epidemic that came out. So that is about where we're at right now with that. Narcan now is available. You can just go pretty much anywhere and get it. You don't have to have a prescription for it. We have it at the police department. If anyone ever needs it or anything else, you can just stop by there, just ask for me, and I can get it to you. If I'm not there, just leave me a note. I can bring it down to your house. As far as addiction and stuff like that, if you guys know anyone that's struggling, the police department has also taken an active role with those situations. What we can do is we can direct you guys to different programs that are out there, and it could be anyone. It could be for teenagers all the way up to people that are up there in their age. There's different programs out there that we can help you guys out with. Do you guys want to come up and just kind of go over some of the overdose stuff? Before they start, does anyone have any questions?
I have something.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
was watching TV the other day, and
Yeah.
they did an article
Okay.
on the Narcan,
Yes.
and they did a little, but not one word was said to be careful because they might react.
Right, yeah.
And that kind of concerned me. I go, wait a minute.
Absolutely. It's not like in the movies where
Right.
all of a sudden where it just instantly reverses that. The fire
Right.
department will get into that a little bit better. But when people do start coming out of an overdose, they are very confused. 'Cause you're looking at them, they're pretty much unconscious, breathing shallow. They don't know what just happened, so yes, they can definitely.
They should put that on if they're going to advertise.
All right, so hello guys, my name's PJ, this is Joe, and Jeff is back here. So we're just gonna kind of talk about some Narcan stuff as well, and piggyback off what Sergeant Benner said. So essentially Narcan, when we show up, typically if it's an overdose, the police, like Sergeant Benner said, have already given at least one, sometimes two of rounds of Narcan. They meet us at the scene most of the time. When we show up, we evaluate, see what's going on. If the patient's getting better, we don't give any more. If they aren't getting better, then we have to continue either to give some Narcan or determine if it's some sort of other medical going on. With Narcan, it comes in kind of two different ways. So they come like this, and they're in this package, or they come like this, and then these ones here, when you open them up, they do look drastically different. So these ones are nasal only, that's what the PD carries, and they look like this. So with these, all it is you close one nostril, put it in half, and then the other nostril half. All right, you just push it in, that's it, and it just squirts in. It's got everything combined. These ones are the ones that we carry on the fire department side of things. They're a little bit, you have to assemble them, but what these do is we can give it IV, we can give it intranasally, depending on what's going on. So IV works a lot quicker. Intranasally does work pretty quick, usually about 2 to 3 minutes, and that's how that works. But when these assemble, it's a little bit different. You have to open up the box. This here is where the medicine is. It's full of liquid. It attaches to the syringe, and then this can hook onto an IV. If we have an IV, you can give it IV, or this other piece is called a nasal atomizer, goes on last. And now this is the exact same thing. Half in one nostril, half in the other. You give it nasally, like I said, it takes about 2 to 3 minutes. In the case of an overdose, what we're really worried about is when somebody overdoses, their respiratory drive gets taken away, so you stop breathing. And that's, you stop breathing, you die. So that's one of the things that that's what we're worried about. You can, when we come into a house, we use this right here to breathe for somebody. It's called a BVM. We use that not only just exclusively to overdoses, we use that anytime the patient's not breathing correctly. You squeeze the bag, the mask goes around the face, makes a seal, doing CPR, anything like that. That's what we use. We use that in conjunction with Narcan to breathe for the patient, get them reoxygenated, and then the Narcan, we give them enough Narcan to, we don't even care if they wake up. As long as their respiratory drive and they start breathing on their own comes back, that's what we're really looking for. So when somebody overdoses on opiates, it's not that it's causing any cardiovascular effects, really, it's the respiratory issue, and then that, with the failure to breathe, causes the cardiac arrest due to respiratory arrest. So realistically, if we didn't have this and we had an opioid overdose, and you were using a BVM, that's what that's called, a bag valve mask, and you were using that to breathe for them, and you just breathe for them until that high wore off hours, they have no adverse effects as long as you're fixing the respiratory issue with the BVM. Any questions on that?
If you see, I'll take myself, if I'm driving somewhere and I stop at, say, down here, get a coffee, right? If I see someone that's laying on the ground, it gets out of the car and lays down, how far should I go? Because I was told that you just don't take Narcan and do anything because you don't know what's happening, why he's there or why she's there, and sometimes it can be vicious. Is this true?
Yeah, so when it comes to if you have a possible possible overdose, right, that you're showing up. Now, Narcan is only going to work for opiates. It's not going to work for cocaine or meth, nothing like that. It's only going to work for opiates. So your heroin, fentanyl, your Dilaudid, Percocets, stuff like that, anything in those families, right? And fentanyl and most of those are all lab created. Heroin and morphine are essentially the same thing. They're created naturally by the poppy plant. Fentanyl's made in the lab. That's why it's stronger and it works a little bit better. But if you come across somebody that you're suspecting is an overdose, right, things to look out for is make sure there's no needles around that you're going to get poked because you don't want that. Make sure that there's no white powder. Fentanyl comes in either white powder, liquid form, pills, doesn't matter. There's a whole bunch of different forms. Make sure that that's not around. If you get that on your skin, it can absorb and you can become either high or overdose yourself. But realistically, it's a safety thing. If the person just got out of their truck and laid down, and you saw that like in your scenario, and they laid down and they're unconscious, I wouldn't go running up with Narcan. I just call 911 because the person had enough that they were able to get out of their vehicle and lay down, that it's probably not going to be super urgent until we get there.
Okay, so you just do the regular, just dial 911 and just maybe stay with the person.
Yeah, I'd be careful, people don't do really the most sane things when they're on any drug, so I'd be a little bit careful. But your typical signs and symptoms of opioid overdoses is going to be unconscious, not breathing. They're going to start turning blue when they stop breathing. You're going to have pinpoint, the pupils will be pinpoint, and then usually a lot of times you become very, very sweaty. So if you see those, there's a decent chance of a opioid overdose. then if you did have Narcan, or say I think some people have family members that might be addicted to pills or whatnot, if they have that history of abuse and they have those signs and symptoms and you come across them, I would definitely give Narcan. So the thing is with Narcan, I could give it to every single person in this room. It'll have no adverse effects. You won't even know what just happened. It feels like you just took some nasal spray. It won't cause any issues. So unless you have an allergy to it. But otherwise, it doesn't cause any issues, no harm. So even when we show up to calls that we don't know what's going on and the person's unresponsive, and it could be an overdose, we still give Narcan. There's no adverse effects.
Okay, the other question I have is really goes who arrives first? If the police, like Joe Cushman, if he's on a cruiser and he's near, if he arrives first, does he have a different? I guess what I'm looking at is what happens today. I see this every day in the police. The police go and all of a sudden they're being shot at. What is the first thing? I asked Joe. What is the first thing you do when a cruiser drives up? How do you perform, not knowing who you're going to see at the door or anything about it? How do you, as a police officer, perform that?
So I don't speak with you after the last meeting, Ken. You're speaking specifically about overdose, right?
You're speaking of
Yeah.
overdose,
Okay,
yeah.
so, if, I'm gonna say in my experience, at least 9 times out of 10 with overdoses, there's someone else there that can tell me he overdosed or she overdosed. I'm sure you could agree with me,
So with that, what you're asking with it, it's kind of, when we get the call for an overdose, our main priority at that point is basically assisting the fire department. Get there, get on scene, make sure that the scene's safe, like the captain said, make sure that there's no needles around, secure the scene, and we will start giving them Narcan. We carry the bags with us also, and then these guys are always close by and usually arrive a couple minutes afterwards. Now, as far as, I think kind of what you're getting at is enforcement actions after that. If there's just a minimum amount of personal use of narcotics onto the scene, enforcement isn't taken at that point. So it has to do with the Samaritan law. Because what we don't want to happen is we don't want people not to dial 911 when there's someone having a medical emergency because they're overdosing on drugs. And in my personal opinion, with that, also with the enforcement action that would come out of it really wouldn't help the person or the situation. What we do though, and that gets back to the Plymouth County outreach, is after an overdose in Plymouth County, within about 24 to 72 hours, law enforcement person goes out with an overdose specialist, and we go to the family and we offer the family help. We offer them resources, we offer them Narcan. If the individual that's struggling with abuse is there, we'll offer them and we'll get them to a rehab if they want help. So that's kind of our aspect of it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anybody out there? Fred?
Yeah, many people have pets in the house, whether it be a cat or a dog, and because these chemicals come in liquid and they come in powder, it could be laying around, and the animal gets into it. Is there any treatment, or do you get any calls, or will the Narcan work on that animal?
We haven't had any. Yeah, we haven't had any direct calls in Halifax for that, but I do believe that the canine officers are trained to do some different stuff if the dog does overdose.
It will work on pets. It works. You can give it to a dog.
We only, from the fire department side of things, we are only allowed, we can't treat pets ever. We're only allowed to treat police canine. That's it. But like Jeff said, it will work on,
You're going to need to take it to the vet immediately, though. Because Narcan is only temporary. It only lasts so long. Whereas, depending on how much the dog ate or licked up, it'll come back. There'll be a rebound effect after the initial. So it does need to see the vet after that. It's not a one-time fix. That's the same with people too. It's not a one-time. We give it, we're done. It's gonna rebound eventually because the Narcan is not gonna last as long as the opiate does in the system.
So at that point then, if somebody's pet did get into one of these chemicals, then your answer would be, just get it to the vet?
Yeah. If you had Narcan, if you had it on hand, you could try it, but yeah, to the vet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Gene?
So you said that you have to re-administer the Narcan? Is that what you have to do if it?
Not every time.
Not every
Yeah, not every time. Depending on the amount of opiate, it can have a longer effect than the Narcan itself. So if you kind of quick fix it at home, it's something that can come back, an hour later, and then you're doing it again, and now nobody's there. So it's worth getting treated for.
There have been plenty of cases, even in Massachusetts, where Narcan, right, saves lives, it really does. But there's been a few cases where a family member, a friend, a person overdoses, family member, friend gives Narcan, and then they run because they're afraid, because they know the fire department, police department coming. They run, maybe go hide in the woods. Narcan only lasts so long, the opiates, like Jeff said, last longer, and then the person re-overdoses out in the woods in the middle of the they have no help. So it is, that is a risk.
The police department also can, if we administer Narcan or the fire department administers Narcan and the individual does stop coming out of it, we do have the ability to force them to go to the hospital.
I was just going to ask, you don't normally take them to the hospital, it's not a requirement that you have to take them.
If Narcan is administered by us on scene, and we do see that, then yes, we can absolutely make them force them to go to the hospital. Gets into a protective custody situation where they can't basically sound minded to take care of them themselves. So if you did have like someone that hadn't just went through that and they're like, no, I just don't want to go to the hospital because they had a hurt finger or something like that, police department, fire department can't force them to go. But with Narcan being administered, yes, we can.
I just want to say that, it's a sad situation that happens that, drug addiction in families today is really prevalent. However, a lot of the grandparents are taking over the children's, responsibilities, and it's kind of sad. But I guess the question is this, is that, when you do have, administer the Narcan, how many times, until call 911 until you come, is there a level of which you do not, administer another, second dosage of it until you get there? So.
It's kind of a case.
Narcan itself.
Oh, it's case by case, definitely case by case.
So is there too much of it? That's what I'm wondering.
Oh, can you administer too much?
Yeah, I mean, is there a level of where
You can't overdose on Narcan. You could inject yourself infinitely with it. It's not something you can actually overdose on. At some point it would become useless. So really after like 2 doses, so the first dose for like what we carry is 2 milligrams and 2 mLs. Your mucosal membrane that's up in your sinuses does all the absorbing for you. Once you get 1 milliliter in each nostril, it's saturated and it can't absorb anymore. So that's why it takes a few minutes. You have to wait for it to clear out and then you can administer a second dose, if that makes sense. That route of administration fills up and the body can't take any more through that membrane. Whereas like IV, we can give as much as we want. So that's, kind of the situation. Give what you have, but never count the doses that you've administered at home, but never not call, just because, one worked or, but you can never overdose them. But by giving it if you gave it every minute, it's not gonna do anything. It's just gonna run down the back of the throat and it's not gonna be absorbed anyway.
Kind of with that training and experience too, I'm not an EMT. I'm just a police officer that has gone to calls that say the fire department comes up and we're calling in an ambulance from East Bridgewater. it's gonna take a little while for the ambulance to come from East Bridgewater to get to Halifax. We're on scene for sometimes about 15 minutes before any sort of medical personnel do show up. Like I said, just being a layperson with the Narcan, you can kind of tell when people are starting to come around, or if they're not starting to come around and you are breathing for them, you would want to definitely administer another round.
Yeah, so I mean, you're in a home situation and your grandparent, does have that situation and you automatically call 911, but then you start to administer the Narcan, but there's no reaction, but then you almost want to give another dosage. So I was just wondering, is there not to do that second dosage if there's no reaction until 911 or the EMTs or police arrive?
So when you call 911, dispatcher's gonna EMT it, and they're gonna tell you, they're gonna ask you, do you have Narcan? And you're gonna say, if you do, you can say yes. They're gonna tell you, okay, give the Narcan, and what they're doing is they're timing it. So typically 3 to 5 minutes is kind of the standard of in between doses. So give it, wait 3 to 5 minutes. If you start seeing improvement, so if the patient starts breathing on their own, that's all we need. We don't need them waiting, talking to us. We just need them breathing. And dispatch is going to ask you those questions. Have you seen anything? In that 3 to 5 minute time span, the police are going to show up on scene, and then they'll kind of take over. And then in about another 2 to 3 minutes after that, we'll show up on scene and take them down. So you're never going to be truly alone. You'll have dispatch on the phone with you, and they're going to be the ones kind of giving you those problems.
Yeah, because that's that spur of the moment situation, your adrenaline's running and so on. Of course, you have to have some type of a guidance, which would be, it's nice to know that. Thank you, yeah.
Any other questions?
The other question I have, while I have you here, you're in a restaurant, and this is not Narcan, this is another thing that's happening. And you have a lot of people in a restaurant, and you find that someone is choking. Can you we have 3 of you here, can show exactly how you handle a person that's choking in a restaurant?
So if you have somebody that's
Can you show how to handle? I know there's a certain way that you pick and go against the person.
Yep, so we have so if you have somebody who's choking, right, that falls under like the choking CPR and all that stuff. So you have somebody who's choking in a restaurant, if they're coughing, right, you just need to keep telling them, keep coughing, keep coughing. If they're coughing, they're moving air, they're not truly choking. If you're somebody that's holding their throat like this and they can't talk, you're not seeing them breathe, and they're not coughing, that means they are truly choking. It's a full airway obstruction. So when you have that situation, you just do the Heimlich, right? And the Heimlich, when you're doing it, is all you want to do is you want to take your right hand, you're going to find the xiphoid process, which is right where your rib cage, you'll feel it. Right where your rib cage comes together, there's a little bone there, it's called the xiphoid process. And you're going to put your right hand there, your left hand's going to come over, give a big hug, get in a good stance, right? And then you're going to squeeze up and in as hard and fast as you can.
This is straight in and up at the same time. I mean, if he comes up off the floor a little bit.
Good. The goal is, right, you want to, and people always ask, how hard do you do that, right? You want to do that until either they shoot that object that's in their throat across the room and hits the window, or the patient starts talking, right? So you're going to keep doing it and doing it and doing it while somebody calls 911, and during that time frame, if the person does go unconscious, you're just going to lay them to the ground and you're just going to start doing chest compressions like CPR.
Alternatively, if you're a smaller person and you have a giant fat person like myself, get your leg between one of their legs between. That way, if I start to go down and it stops working, he can lower me down to the ground without me falling in the middle of the Texas Roadhouse on the floor.
I also teach the 6th graders every year at the elementary school. We do CPR and minor first aid. But when it comes to choking, I'll grab one of the 6th graders, they're about this tall on me, and I'm like, how could you do CPR on me? I'm a pretty tall person, right? Even Joe Cushman, he's a little bit shorter than me. So for him to get the leverage, it's not really gonna work, because I'm too tall. So the key to that is if you have somebody who is choking and they're really tall and you might be short, you'd have me kneel down. So a patient kneels down, now you have all the leverage you need. So, make sense?
Okay, any other questions at all? Are we, Jean?
Is the Good Samaritan law something that protects you if you do intervene like that? In case.
For for
Like
CPR?
if you step in and do CPR, or step in and do the highway, is that what this scenario was all about?
For the medical side of it?
Yeah.
For anyone that's not licensed professional.
Okay.
So if you're a nurse and you do weird things, you're not protected anymore.
Yeah, but if you're trying to help.
If you're just a citizen trying to help, do the right thing, yep.
Yeah, they can't sue absolutely nothing.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Do you offer CPR classes?
Done a couple of programs on,
We've done them in the past, yeah.
yes.
We've done them in the past, it kind of all depends. You'd have to call down and talk to the chief, see what he has coming up on the schedule.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
CPR classes have to be done at the station?
They can either be done at the station or we can come other places.
Because I know when we had them years ago, we had to meet at the station on the second floor and they did it then. So
Yep.
is that
So
same way?
We've done a couple different things. So we do CPR classes where individuals need the certifications, and those usually are kind of about 2 hours long. And you have to take a test, you have to do the practical component of doing CPR on the mannequin all in front of us, and we give you the yes or no. And then we also just do like an intro to CPR, intro to first aid, where we'll come, we went to the Council on Aging a couple weeks ago, the three of us did, and we did a whole presentation on CPR, choking, AED use, not Council on Aging, sorry, at Hendricks Hall, went down there. That's something we can do as well. And usually that's about 45 minutes to an hour. We just give you an overview in case you have to ever do it.
I think when I took the class a few years ago, of course you forget it, but if you don't use these things, you forget how to do it. Like
if you have a certification card, you have to recertify every 2 years.
you have to be certified, yeah. So what is it, every 2 years?
If you need a certification card, yeah.
How often do you have the classes for ones that already had it, need to be certified?
It all depends. We schedule them as needed.
Okay.
We can set something up in the COA and have it as a group thing. It's just a matter of coordinating the time and so on. We can do that for the seniors.
Okay, thank you very much, you guys, from coming over. I know you have other things you have to get back to, but appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I want to continue with our meeting, so just hang on.
We're going to leave some file lights up here as well, if anyone needs any. All right.
Just because I don't want to lose it.
We're going to run through a couple of work. Thank you. I was hoping we could stop for it. I have one of those. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you. We will continue with the department heads. Jean? Darlene, we'll get to you in a minute. Jean, can we continue with the department heads and anything that you want to discuss or bring up at all?
Just keep putting your emails on the sign-in if you haven't received my email reminders. Most of you have email reminders, but if you want an email reminder, it'll be if you sort of write it up.
Okay. Jean from the library.
Hi, so I didn't bring any of my things today because we had a issue with the printer and I was a little bit late. But I have my calendar. Oh, you know what I can talk about? So the week of, they want to know about we have all cataloged and ready to go after much ado 2 hotspots for patron checkout. And our hotspot is if you don't have internet access
plug in your, I've been using it on your phone as well.
I use it on my phone and my laptop. So it brings, you take the internet with you. So I work part-time for Simmons University and I go into schools. I'm a field teacher. So it's not always easy to hop on somebody else's internet. So I borrowed this and it was very super easy to set up. You make sure it's charged, you hit the button, it says welcome, its name is Franklin, so you look for Franklin on your Wi-Fi, on your phone or your computer, and then you type in the password, which is located on the back, and you're all set for internet use. So if you're going on vacation, maybe you rented an Airbnb that doesn't have internet access, you can bring it along with you if you're camping or traveling in your car for a long ride and you want the internet access. And it works really well. It's pretty fast and I think you can stream movies and
You can do whatever you can do with internet, and it's free, it doesn't cost anything. A lot of the Toronto libraries have them. Some of them are Halifax, like we put in our policy, Halifax residents only. I'm gonna see how popular they become and see if I need to expand that or not, but for right now, it's Halifax residents only. You can have them for 2 weeks. There's no renewal, so you have to bring them back. But if there's nobody waiting, it's all a process to see. This is the first month we've had them. So right now, the policy says that you can have them for 2 months, and one family can, 2 weeks, and one family can only have them like once a month. So one family can only have them for 2 weeks a month. But I'm gonna see how well they go and how they circulate and things like that. I mean, the most important thing is that they're being used. We had them cataloged on Friday. First one went out 2 days later, and then the second one went out a few days after that. So I'm excited. It seems like it's going to be very
and
popular.
they're super easy to use. I was amazed. So I didn't have any directions. It was just really easy.
I can never right?
And it threw me when it asked for a password. I'm like, oh, they didn't tell me anything about password, but it is right on the back of the device. So it was very easy.
This is something that you borrow from the library.
You borrow it from your library, you have to sign the policy that you understand it has to come back. If it's overdue and you just decide, like, it's not like a book that you can decide, oh, well, just, pay the fine. I mean, it is a $20 maximum fine on it, but it's useless to you because T-Mobile shuts off your internet once it's overdue. So basically, after 2 weeks, it's not any good to you anyway, and you're going to have to pay the fine on it.
Gina, if you take that on vacation and your whole family is there, they all use.
They can all, I think you can hook up to like 8 different devices. I mean, I don't know how to do that, but yes, I've read the thing and different people can use it, yeah.
Can you reserve it for a certain?
So right now, like I said, it's new, so we don't have holds on them, but I think I'm gonna probably change that. If somebody comes in and asks, I'll say, yes, this one's due back at this time, and I'll put you next on the list. So,
Okay.
hopefully it'll be an easy transition. I just want to mention.
Darlene, you want,
Yeah, I just want to mention, we also have the iPads at the COA. So in coordination, and we were trying to get someone to come in to teach classes. I can do it myself, but the thing is the time-wise. But we do have the iPads for this, for our population of members. So I'd be more than happy to connect you. Also to your iPhone, if you have an iPhone, there is a hotspot on your iPhone, and you can connect that way with the cord. So I'll show you how to do that as well. And there's you just put in your password, and you'll always have your phone too. So there is a spot on it, and if you have the iPhone, I can show you. But yeah, we do also have the iPads. We can coordinate with the library.
I have an iPhone too, but you know, you don't want to drain your battery, so this worked really well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sometimes I use it on my laptop, and my laptop, as long as my laptop is all, charged, then it charges, and it always keeps it charged too. So we'll talk about all that stuff, it's fun.
Yes, they're very popular within the whole library network, which is why I decided that, we should probably jump on board with that. And now that it's all kind of set up and everything, if I find that like our 2 are always checked out, I can then purchase more from T-Mobile. And the cost of the iPad, the hotspot is not, I think they were like $20 a piece or something with like the libraries and stuff like that. So, so practice, thank you for reminding me. That's great. And the other thing about the library that I was going to talk about is, so the sales network and Halifax, Clinton, a lot of these surrounding libraries are participating on Eagle Vacation Week. It's called the Library Roadshow. And you can come to the library and pick up a map of all the surrounding sales libraries that are participating. And when you go to those libraries, there'll be different events that they're having, different things that they want to show you. Some are giving incentives. It's really not about like what prize you're going to get, but it's like a time for everybody to kind of go around and visit the other libraries in the sales network and see what they have to offer. And you can pick up your map at the library, and you're just going to get a stamp at each library saying that you went there. We're doing children's crafts all week. I'm making really nice bookmarks for the adults that come. I'll just give, if they say, can I have a stamp, I'm going to give them a nice bookmark. That's okay. So that's the week of April vacation.
Thank you, Jean.
Yeah.
Darlene,
Yes.
you're next.
Oh. We actually, there's a lot of good things coming up in May. We got our first newsletter out. LPI is our company that actually we're utilizing in terms of being able to, print it for us. So we had some tweaking of it. We asked that if you have any information that you want to put in the newsletter, just let us know. The deadline would be the second week. Once it, happens, it happens. I have no control over it. But the second week of each month. So deadline would be that Friday. So anything that goes in there it's published. So and I can't change it. So if there's some changes you'll see in the newsletter, there were some changes that have happened. Of course, for the Love Art program is transitioning. So we're going to bring her back again. Everyone's enjoyed her restful painting classes. And the beautiful art that came out of it, which is wonderful. Maggie is also coming in to do crafts twice a month. So we have that going in. She's been doing some really wonderful, fun stuff that everybody's enjoyed, and the class has grown greatly. We're going to be bringing in some Mass Cultural Council, and Halifax Local Council is also, we're very fortunate to have a lot of these people come in to entertain us. It's just finding spots to have it. So we do, just stay tuned and be awakening on certain dates because of the capacities or the limitations as to where we can have certain things, and it may change, overnight sometimes, and unfortunately, it's the situation we're in, so hopefully someday we won't have that problem. But for now, just bear with me in terms of, changes at the last minute in terms of where we're gonna have things. So pretty much, we have Dottie to talk about some of the trans trips that they're going to be offering. So some fun stuff if you want to mention some of the things that, you're
Well, I
gonna
have the Spirit of Boston going on May 10th, I believe. And then I have White in Fall River, and then we have the turkey train. We had to turn people away last year, so we decided to run it again this year. I worked with another lady from Kansas, so Terry and I, we're kind of heating out. We've been doing it for about 20 years, and so kind of
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
You don't have another 20 years left. Come on, let's vote for you.
It seems like, but we're heating out, kind of retiring, but Dog from Halifax wants to get involved in the trip. And also the director at Clinton also wants to get involved in doing trips. So we will have people covering us. And just so you know, this isn't a business. Whatever we make, we give back to the council on aging. Because we do get, I might get $10 for each person, I don't know what it is. But what we do, how many people go, we give it back to the council on aging. So it isn't a business. It's a fundraiser more or less for the councils in each town. Just so you know.
All right, what I'm going to do next is, and if you want to take and write these down, I'm going to go through a list of speakers, starting with May. The speaker which will be on May 2nd, that's the next one we have. That's going to be the State 9/11 Department Mobile, which is the public station answering point. And this is requested that I do this with the group because it has something a lot to do with the police and anyone here that needs something very quickly. This would be with the, as I say, 9/11 provides with mass EDP. And the 9/11, it's a silent call procedure, equipment that is available to visual impaired seniors and other services that the agency will provide with us. So they're going to have quite a few things that they're going to go over with us. And that's going to be the May 2nd one. June, I'm having the town, the Board of Health here, the agent running it, Bob Valerie, and that's going to be in reference to what we had going on here years and years ago, of the town dump situation way in back of Circuit Street. There's been rumors around that it's going to be opened up, and I talked to the board, the health agent, Bob Valerie, and he said that that thing is dead and it will always be dead. Nothing will ever be brought up to be done anywhere near that area. So he's going to invite the Department of the Environmental Group to come down, and with him, they're going to go over the maintenance and who maintains it and who can't go after it. The health department, as well as the whole town of Halifax, they can't do anything at all up there. It's all restricted. And it's all going to be handled by the State Department. And they're going to go over what they have to do every year in that area with stuff they have to come in with fill. They're going to tell you what kind of fill it is, who even inspects the fill, even if it comes to Halifax. So that's on June 6th. Then I've got, to go further, July 4th, this year July 4th comes on first Tuesday. So if everyone's agreeing, we'll have the meeting on July 11th, if that's agreeable with everybody. July 11th is the next Tuesday. Anybody have a problem on it, or wouldn't be able to be here? So anyway, so hold it on July 11th. And that, by the way, is going to be something that you've all been waiting for, and that's going to be done by a person living in Plymouth, and he is a deep-sea fisherman. And he's retired now, and he said that he can go over a lot of these things with you, the state rules, the federal rules, and you understand why you see on TV where the deep-sea fishermen are up against a lot of things which is going to create problems with them, not only in the fishing part, but being at sea, there's going to be a lot of problems with the vessels and what they can do and what they can't do. So that's going to be on July 4th.
11th.
I'm sorry, July 11th. July 11th.
You will be here, won't you?
Yeah, I'll be here. And his name is Eric Machino. And Darlene, thank you for giving me that name, because they worked. Last year, I looked it up, and for some reason, we didn't have meetings in July and August.
Yeah.
And
Vacation
what happened during that time, when we came back, we lost a few people. And I think by not having the meetings, maybe skipping 1 month would be all right, but skipping 2 months, I think it does a little bit of damage on people thinking they're not holding for 2 months, so we'll forget it. But what I was going to ask you, if we could skip maybe one of the months, go into September. What do you think about skipping the months anyway? What do people think about it?
Well, if we have to skip anything, it might be in February, which is a nasty month.
Yeah, February we do anyway. That's during the winter months.
This is good
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Besides, okay.
But do you see any reason why we should skip any of the summer months? And we should just continue going along? Everybody agreeable? Okay,
Yeah.
Carol, you okay with that? Okay, Carol's just looking at me. She.
You're the one who plans it all.
Yeah.
And if somebody's on vacation, they don't come, so
Yeah.
you have it.
Right. Well, that's how I was looking at it. There's some people on vacation, and we have it the first Tuesday of the month, most of the time, so really you have the whole month if you want to do something else. Okay, so we won't skip anything at all, and that will go right through Christmas, the rest of the year.
Okay.
Okay.
Ken, why don't you see how it works in July and August, and then you can decide next year what you want to do.
See what the turnout is.
What the turnout is in July and August.
Well, the fisherman's coming in July, so.
Yeah. Well, we have July taken anyway. That's going to be the fishermen. So I'm just going to continue going with the list. And last time we cross off one, we'll add another one to it. But does everyone have the list now? We got to go through. Got June, July, and August. Any?
Send that out by email so everybody has
Yeah.
that list with the
Yeah.
date.
I asked the Halifax fire chief, because he didn't realize anything about this meeting. I think when I mentioned it to you before, he doesn't he get a memo as far as
I
the,
thought he was on there, but you know what, I will check, and I can call the fire department and get his email if it's not on there.
because I thought you said that everyone was on the list, so they all had
Because the fire chief doesn't, it's not by name, it's like chief of Halifax Fire or something like that. But I'll double check on that, Ken, it's possible he's not on there.
yeah. Other than that, I guess everyone gets it. So is there anything that you people want to talk about? Talk to me about. Is there anyone that you want to see as a speaker that you would like to do? I know Fred, he has a situation that we're going to put on. Anyone else have anything that you want to discuss for future meetings? Is everybody happy with what they have?
Yes. Yes.
Nobody can talk, but they can nod.
Anything new coming up with the scams in that department? Anything new with scams coming in? Is there anything new there on that department?
Nothing.
Just the same old, what I mentioned before.
Same old.
Same old.
Coming in, the romance scams, the grandparent scams, IRS scams, people calling saying electricity is gonna be shut off unless you pay with a gift card. Again, you know, don't throw your common sense out the window. You've never paid a bill with a gift card. It just makes sense for utilities, but they prey on people's hair. But again, just share the information with your friends, because it keeps happening.
Yep.
And then also, we've seen a few cases of people, stealing people's identity and applying for unemployment.
Well, if the district attorney and women, if they want to have something, well, let me know and I can put it so that just to continue. We have a meeting, I crossed one off, I add one to it, so we continue along. So if there's anything that you want to, if Tim Cruz has anyone he wants to put on for different types of things,
Yeah, I will check.
just let me know and then we can put it right on. Then I will save me from looking for another one. All right, so I guess that's it. So why don't we have our coffee and something to eat? And thank you very much for showing up. And we'll go on now and enjoy the rest of the month. I hope it's sunny.
It will be.
I have a lot of leaves to rake up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.